There are moments in alternate history when two giants who never crossed paths suddenly find themselves staring at each other across a horizon they were never meant to share. Imagine, for a moment, the warm Mediterranean wind falling silent, the clouds drifting low over a restless sea, and two of Europe's greatest battleships, born from rival visions of naval power, pointing their guns toward a destiny rewritten by a single twist of fate. Littorio, Richelieu, Italy's pride, France's defiance, titans who, in our world, never met in battle, but here, in this narrow corridor of imagined history, their courses bend toward confrontation, and the Mediterranean becomes a stage where engineering brilliance, national ambition, and human will collide with thunderous finality. Our story begins not with a shot, but with a decision. It is late 1941. The war in Europe is tightening like a rope pulled slowly around the continent's throat. The French fleet has been fractured, its loyalties uncertain, its future more political than military. And in this alternate thread, a single diplomatic misstep changes everything. The British attempt to seize French ships in North Africa fails, leaving resentment burning in the officers who escape. The French government in exile, desperate to reclaim prestige, quietly strikes a deal with the remnants of the French navy still loyal to the tricolor. Among them is the battleship Richelieu, a vessel that has endured exile, sabotage, and the long shadow of indecision. Her commander, Captain Jacques de Montferrand, is a man torn between pride and despair. He knows France cannot afford another humiliation, and so when the British ask for assistance in blocking Italian supplies moving toward North Africa, France agrees, but not out of loyalty, out of vengeance. They want the world to see that France is not finished, that Richelieu, battered as she is, can still cast a shadow on the sea. On the other side of the water, in the harbors of Taranto, Littorio prepares for another high-speed dash. Her captain, Salvatore Neri, is known for a calm that unsettles even his closest officers. He believes the Mediterranean is Italy's birthright, a legacy stretching back to Rome itself, and every foreign fleet that enters it does so at Italy's indulgence. In this version of history, Italian intelligence intercepts whispers of a French operation near Sardinia. A lone battleship, fast, heavily armed, and commanded by officers with something to prove. For Neri, the decision comes easily. Littorio will intercept. He will not allow the French to operate freely in waters Italy calls its own. Two ships, two nations, two wounded prides pushing them toward a collision neither is prepared for, yet both welcome. The Mediterranean that morning is deceptively peaceful. Pale blue water stretches to invisible horizons. Gulls drift lazily above the waves, unaware of the forces gathering beneath them. Richelieu glides westward, her great 8-gun turret aligned forward, a signature silhouette that makes her look like a fortress adrift. Her crew moves with quiet purpose. Many of them have not fought a battle in years. Some have never fought one at all. In the radio room, a faint echo arrives, a report of an Italian battleship leaving Taranto. The officers stare at each other. They know which one it must be, Littorio, the pride of the Regia Marina, one of the fastest, most advanced battleships afloat. Montferrand says nothing for a long moment. Then he speaks a single sentence that spreads through the steel corridors like an electrical charge. Prepare for engagement. Across the water, Littorio pushes east at high speed, slicing through the waves with the effortless grace born from Italian naval design. Her hull gleams in the sunlight, her engines hum with barely constrained power. The crew senses something unusual. A French battleship operating alone? It doesn't make sense. And yet moments like these rarely do. The first sighting happens just before noon. Two silhouettes appear on the horizon, each one growing slowly sharper through waves of shimmering heat. Officers on both bridges reach for binoculars. Conversations fade. Engines thrum louder as they adjust their courses, each ship angling slightly toward the other. And in that silent instant before the storm begins, a truth becomes clear to everyone on both decks. This will not be an ordinary battle. It will be a test of ship against ship, commander against commander, and the very idea of destiny itself. The Mediterranean has held its breath for centuries, waiting for a duel of this magnitude. Now its hour has come. The horizon tightens like a fist. The air grows heavier, charged with the kind of anticipation that rises before thunder. Littorio and Richelieu close the distance in slow, deliberate arcs, each captain trying to read the other long before the first shot is fired. No signals, no warnings, just a steady, tightening spiral, as Mediterranean sunlight glitters along steel armor and ripples across the sea between them. Captain Neri stands on Littorio's bridge with the stillness of a carved statue. His officers murmur figures and ranges, but he listens for something deeper. Instinct shaped by years at sea and sharpened by the pressure of a nation watching, he knows Littorio's strengths well: blistering speed, elegant Italian engineering, a hull designed to cut sharp lines in the water. And then the guns, 9 enormous 15-inch rifles capable of turning even the strongest battleship into flaming wreckage. But Richelieu is no ordinary opponent. Neri has studied her. He knows she carries all 8 of her 15-inch guns forward in a single massive turret assembly. It is a design choice the Italians never fully trusted. Too radical, too French. And yet in the right hands it turns the ship into a spear, a weapon that charges, instead of dances. Neri smiles faintly. If she wants to fight head-on, he says, we will oblige her. But Captain Montferrand aboard Richelieu sees the battle through a different lens. To him, this confrontation is not about honor or prestige. It is about redemption. His men have lived too long under the shadow of surrender, too long watching their homeland torn between collaboration and defiance. He needs a victory not for glory, but for dignity. As Littorio's silhouette sharpens, Montferrand feels Richelieu coming alive beneath him. Engines vibrate through the deck, turret machinery hums with familiar strength, and for the first time in years he sees something in his crew he feared was gone: belief. The gunnery officer steps close. Range approaching 24 kilometers, he says. Littorio is turning to present full broadside, Montferrand nods. Steady, we fire only when ready, because he understands something Neri does not. Richelieu's forward gun configuration is only a weakness if she stands still. If she keeps moving, if she keeps her bow pointed toward her enemy, she becomes a needle aiming for the heart of a much broader, more exposed target. The sea darkens beneath growing shadows as the ships begin their final approach. Wind spills across the decks, snapping flags and tugging at the uniforms of sailors bracing for the violence to come. Gun crews lock shells into position, breeches slam shut. Powder fumes drift like ghosts through open hatches. And then the moment breaks. Littorio fires first. 3 enormous flashes erupt from her forward turrets, each one a pillar of fire that rolls into a thunderclap strong enough to tremble the bones of every man aboard. The shells arc skyward, disappearing into the haze before dropping toward Richelieu like falling stars. Montferrand's order rings out: hard to port. Present minimal profile. Richelieu turns with surprising agility, slicing across the path of the incoming shells. The first crashes into the sea just off her port bow, erupting in a geyser of foam. The second screams overhead, its shockwaves sliding down the deck in a whip of hot air. The third lands farther away, but still close enough that the ship shudders from the impact. A heartbeat later, Richelieu answers. Her massive quadruple turret belches fire with an earth-splitting roar. 8 shells leap into the air in a single devastating salvo, forming a tight cluster meant to overwhelm, not intimidate. Littorio braces as the sea around her erupts. 2 shells fall close enough to shower her decks with splinters and fragments of shattered water. But neither ship slows. This is not a distant duel of patient gunners. This is a chase, a narrowing spiral, 2 predators circling with increasing ferocity as they try to break the other's rhythm. Littorio swings hard, her hull heeling as she moves into a pounding turn. Another broadside explodes from her guns, this one fired with perfect timing, perfect range. Richelieu answers with another forward blast, her salvo ripping the sky with a deafening chorus. The sea becomes a scorched corridor of rising plumes, falling steel and echoing thunder. Smoke clings to the air, drifting in strange shapes that wrap around the ships like specters. Every shot fired is met with a countershot, every maneuver greeted with an answer. But beneath the fury, a deeper truth begins to emerge. Littorio, elegant, balanced, broadside favored, is struggling to force Richelieu out of her charging posture. Meanwhile, Richelieu, narrow, fast, concentrated, is fighting to close distance, to turn the duel into a knife fight where her unique design can shine. Both captains feel it. The tension between their philosophies, the battle becoming something far more personal than strategy or doctrine. And as the sun dips lower over the Mediterranean, painting the water with streaks of gold and blood-red light, they understand that the next exchange could define everything: their ships, their nations, their names, and the Mediterranean, ancient witness to 1,000 battles, prepares to echo with the next chapter of thunder. The battle reaches a new register as the sun drops lower, turning the Mediterranean into a glowing sheet of hammered bronze. Littorio and Richelieu carve long wounds across the surface as they maneuver, throwing white water into the air with every turn. Smoke trails drift behind them, twisting like ink in the wind. The duel has shed the restraint of range-finding shots. Now each salvo is an attempt to break the other's spine, yet beneath the chaos a pattern begins to form. Littorio is winning the dance of distance, Her speed, slightly superior on paper, becomes a real advantage as she slides into a wide turn that threatens to cross Richelieu's path. Captain Neri sees the opening forming. A classic tactic. Move across the enemy's bow, force them into a vulnerable angle, and unleash a broadside that no ship can ignore. His officers read the same situation. A ripple of excitement moves through the bridge. They can feel the moment turning. Littorio's gunners prepare a full salvo, timing their aim to the rhythm of the ship's movement. But Montferrand sees it too, and for the first time since the battle began, he makes a decision born not from caution but audacity. He orders Richelieu toward Littorio. A collective breath is drawn across both bridges. It is a maneuver that defies expectations, a move that almost borders on reckless. Instead of turning away, instead of widening the range, Richelieu charges, tightening the distance and narrowing her profile even further. Her prow cuts sharply into the waves, rising and falling with brutal force as she accelerates. Montferrand's voice is calm, almost serene. Forward guns, continuous fire. The turret commander acknowledges. 8 guns fire, then reload, then fire again. Richelieu becomes a spear of flame, each salvo smashing into the water around Littorio with growing precision. The Italian battleship shudders as one shell slams into her forward plating, exploding in a violent spray of armor fragments and steam. Not a mortal hit, but the impact shakes the bridge. For a moment, Littorio stumbles. Neri grips the edge of the map table, steadying himself. His jaw tightens. Richelieu is not behaving like a battleship. She is behaving like a predator that refuses to circle. Her captain is making a statement, not just tactically, but spiritually. France will not be outmaneuvered. Not today. Littorio responds with fury. Another full broadside erupts, this time with deadly accuracy born from necessity. 3 shells bracket Richelieu so tightly they seem almost coordinated. One shell vaporizes a boat on her starboard side. Another tears into the upper deck, ripping open a section of plating and sending a shockwave through the corridors below. Richelieu's crew staggers, but the ship does not falter. She has taken worse in her turbulent history: sabotage, torpedoes, political chaos. Compared to that, Littorio's blows feel almost respectful. The distance shrinks further. 16 kilometers. 14. 13 at this range. The ocean itself seems to tremble under the weight of falling shells. Each explosion feels closer, louder, more personal. Sailors on both ships now glimpse each other in brief flashes between smoke clouds, faces hardened by fear, sweat, and defiance. It is no longer simply machinery fighting. It is men fighting through the machines. Neri attempts to widen the gap again, ordering a turn to starboard. But Richelieu mirrors him instantly, shadowing every maneuver like a hound locked onto scent. The French battleship is committed. She will not let Littorio breathe. Montferrand watches through binoculars, the Italian ship filling his vision like a steel mountain. He senses Littorio's movements, reading her intentions through subtle shifts in speed and angle. The sea feels smaller now, reduced to a narrow arena where instinct matters more than doctrine. Then the moment of truth breaks open. A French shell, one fired almost blindly through smoke, strikes Littorio's midships area with catastrophic precision. It detonates just above the belt armor, ripping apart an anti-aircraft platform and shattering multiple compartments. Secondary fires burst outward. A plume of black smoke rises like a sudden storm cloud. The Italian bridge falls silent for a heartbeat. Officers freeze, absorbing the impact through the tremor in their bones. Neri doesn't look away. "Damage control," he says steadily. "Maintain speed." But both commanders know what has changed. The duel has crossed an invisible threshold. Littorio is wounded, not fatally, but deeply enough that the rhythm of battle has shifted. Richelieu feels it. Her crew feels it. The French battleship, driven by a hunger years in the making, senses the opening and pushes harder, her bow rising as she charges straight into the heart of Littorio's firing arc. Smoke thickens. The sea gutters with flame. Shells fall so close they carve fountains of water higher than the ships themselves. And in this tightening crucible, both captains understand something they never expected. This is no longer a duel of nations. It is a duel of souls. The next salvo may decide everything. The sea around the two ships boils with fire and falling steel. The Mediterranean wind, once soft and indifferent, now carries the deep animal growl of heavy guns and the sharp metallic taste of burning armor. Smoke has swallowed the clean horizon. All that remains is a shifting haze where two giants struggle at a distance now closer than any battleship duel should dare. Richelieu presses forward, refusing to yield a meter. Her bow rises and falls in violent rhythm, each impact sending tremors through her battered hull. But aboard her bridge, Captain Montferrand stands tall, refusing to let the chaos shake his focus. He has chased too many ghosts to waver now, Every shell he fires feels like a declaration. A reclamation, a promise that France still has teeth. Littorio, wounded but unbroken, answers with fury born from pride. Her officers work in a storm of shouted commands and choking smoke. Fire teams race through corridors glowing red from heat. The ship lists slightly, then stabilizes as pumps roar to life. Captain Neri's voice cuts through the bridge with calm authority, the kind that anchors men in moments when the world seems to tilt. Steady. We hold the line. He knows Littorio can still fight. Her engines still push with unrelenting strength. Her turrets still respond, even as fragments of steel rain down around them. And her crew, young, exhausted, terrified, still move with the precision drilled into them long before war ever reached their shores. The ship's close to 11 kilometers. A range so intimate that each broadside feels instantaneous. Gun flashes appear and the explosions follow less than a breath later. Richelieu fires again, a deafening blast that shakes loose rusted bolts and wakes echoes deep inside her armored citadel. Her shells streak toward Littorio, their impact marked by a rising sheet of flame that briefly silhouettes the Italian ship like a phantom. Then Littorio fires. 9 15-inch shells burst forth in a rolling thunder that seems to tear the sky itself. They streak low, fast, and terrifyingly accurate. Richelieu turns sharply, but not sharply enough. A shell slams into her upper deck, ripping apart a secondary battery and throwing a column of black smoke straight into the sky. Another plunges deeper, penetrating a thin seam near the forward gun machinery. The explosion shakes the turret, knocking gunners from their feet and throwing sparks across the floor. For the first time, Richelieu stumbles. Montferrand grips the rail with white knuckles. He feels the deck shudder beneath him, senses the mood shift in the men around him. Not panic, not despair, but the realization that Littorio will not break easily. The Italian battleship fights with a ferocity matched only by the men who built her. The distance shrinks to 9 kilometers. This is point-blank range for battleships of their size. A deadly space where armor becomes vulnerable, where even a single hit can be catastrophic. Both captains know it. Neri narrows his eyes. One more salvo. Wait for her broadside. Montferrand whispers a single word. Forward. Richelieu plunges ahead, her damaged turret groaning but still capable of unleashing a full 8-gun blast. Littorio swings to port, presenting her full broadsides in a final attempt to cross Richelieu's path. And then, in a moment suspended between life and destruction, the thunder breaks. Richelieu fires first, a perfect forward salvo, 8 shells that leave her bow in a single spear of flame, arcing across the shortest distance of the entire battle. Littorio fires a heartbeat later. 2 roaring walls of steel cross paths in midair, invisible to the eye but felt by every man on board. The impact is devastating. 3 French shells strike Littorio in rapid succession. One punches through the belt armor and detonates in a machinery space. Another tears open a section near the aft turret. The third, traveling slightly high, slams into the superstructure, shattering rangefinders and sending showers of metal across the bridge. Littorio staggers, her speed dropping as smoke pours from fresh wounds, but her final broadside has already been launched. 4 shells land around Richelieu in an expanding ring of rising towers of foam. 2 miss by meters. One scrapes her starboard armor belt with enough force to rattle every bolt along the hull. The 4th hits, a perfect hit. It plunges beneath her forward turret and detonates deep inside the ship, sending a shockwave ripping through the ammunition handling rooms. The turret falls silent. Power flickers, smoke floods the lower decks. Richelieu's bow sinks slightly, water rushing over twisted metal and shattered plating. For a moment, neither ship fires. The thunder fades, wind returns. Smoke drifts away in long gray ribbons. Both giants, damaged and exhausted, circle each other slowly. Their crews stand in stunned silence, listening to the groans of metal and the distant hiss of dying flames. Littorio tries to accelerate again, but her machinery protests with a deep grinding sound that leaves no uncertainty. She cannot keep up the fight. Richelieu tries to bring her forward turret to bear, but the guns do not move. The hit has crippled her ability to continue. They drift apart, not in retreat, not in victory, but in mutual recognition. 2 titans who found their limits in each other. 2 ships that could not break the other without breaking themselves. Montferrand watches Littorio fade into the smoke with a strange sense of peace. Not triumph, not sorrow. Just an understanding of what it meant to meet a worthy opponent on open water. Neri stands on his damaged bridge, staring at Richelieu's listing silhouette. He knows the truth. If they continued, both ships would sink. Honor, he realizes, sometimes means knowing when the sea has taken enough. The Mediterranean grows quiet. Only the slow rhythm of waves against broken armor remains. No cheers, no anthems, just silence. In this alternate history, the duel ends not with victory, but with memory. two nations watching their greatest ships limp home, carrying stories that will echo for generations. If you want more journeys like this, more windows into worlds that could have been, I'll be here, ready to set the next course.